Hey everybody, in this video, we're going to share our experience at Teotihuacán.
A lot of walking, a lot of sun, and a lot of beautiful pyramids.
Hey everybody, I'm Sean.
And I'm Deb.
And welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about something that I find to be just absolutely amazingly cool. And that is our trip outside of Mexico City to the ruins at Teotihuacán.
So it's a little bit drizzly out here today.
It is drizzly.
I don't know if you can see it in the video, but there's some
thunder rolling. Yeah.
So anyway, this was a trip that we booked through Viator. It was $22 each. It was sort of a newer tour, I think, because they were doing it as just sort of a basic tour. If you just wanted to simply have a ride and a guide without like meals and everything, that's what the tour was meant to be.
I think that's the difference. This company has been doing the tours for a while, but this was kind of different in that they didn't stop for meals. They didn't have any touristy stops like for souvenir shops and things like that. This was straight a ride and a guide, and I liked it. I thought it was good.
So they did stop. It was about a 45-minute ride. In case I didn't mention, it was $22 each, so the basic fare. And about a 45-minute ride out and back. And they did stop on the way there at a gas station.
Yeah.
And they suggested if you needed to fill up on water or snacks, or there was a Subway there, you could get sandwiches.
Go to the restrooms.
Yep. And so we had brought our own snacks and water, so that was fine. We just stopped with the group and then headed on out to the pyramids.
Yeah, it's not so, and this was kind of nice. At Teotihuacan, it wasn't like when you go into the ruins, there were a ton of snack shops and people selling water and all that kind of stuff. There was not a lot of that. So
there was a little bit of it when you entered, and then when you get to the end.
Yeah.
And it is a walk through the complex.
Right.
So we had to walk to the pickup point to get there. And that was maybe about a 10, 15-minute walk.
Yep.
And I had picked out a donut shop.
Funny story.
Because I thought, we'll get donuts to eat on the way to the pyramids.
Right. And she's like, there's this highly rated donut shop right by the pickup.
Now, I knew the name of the donut shop, but I didn't realize it was a chain, because I usually avoid chains when we're in other countries. So I didn't know it was a chain, but it was called Randy's.
So we're walking down the street, and I'm waiting because she's like, yeah, it's a highly rated donut shop. So we'll go get donuts, we'll get coffee, and we're like a block away, and we like walk, and I said, you're not taking us to a Randy's Donuts, are you? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, you know, like Randy's Donuts from Los Angeles, Randy's. Like, so if you've seen the, Iron Man, Avengers movies, there's Iron Man sitting in the top of a big giant donut on top of a donut shop.
We took a picture of it because it was on the wall.
Yeah, it's like one of LA's like oldest donut shops.
Snoop Dogg was also on the wall.
Yeah.
We got a picture of him too.
And by the way, I had no problem going to a Randy's donut shop because they're fantastic donuts.
I never heard of them, but it is one of the best donuts I've ever eaten. I just was very impressed. They were very good.
In all of our travels, I was surprised that Deb had never either been to or heard of a Randy's Donuts. So then when we got on the bus and she's eating this donut and she's like, this is one of legit the best donuts I've ever had.
I don't think we have those in the Midwest, because I do not remember ever seeing a Randy's.
We do not. So it makes sense. But anyway, so she took us to a great donut shop. If you're in Ciudad de Mexico and you want to get a good donut, Randy's Donuts is good. So, okay, so we got our donuts. We're on our bus. It was, like Deb said, it was like a 45-minute ride out there. It's kind of cool because you're heading outside of Mexico City, and you can see the kind of suburb areas and all of the aerial trams that they've built to kind of bring people in and out of the city. So that was kind of cool.
And the trams are not for tourists. They're actually for the locals. Yes. So they use it getting up and down the hills around Mexico City.
Right.
So the complex itself at Teotihuacan.
She's been practicing that.
Is about 32 square miles. It's very large.
Yeah.
The society started, everything was a we think. So our guard kept saying, we think. We don't know, but we think, because they really didn't know a lot about this. But the society started somewhere around 600 BC and lasted till about 750 AD. At the time, it was one of the largest cities in the Americas.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let me take that back. It was the largest city in the Americas. the city collapsed. One of the theories was because of extreme weather that happened between 535 AD and 536. But again, they don't know.
They just don't know.
It's a theory of the extreme weather that came through. So this society predates the Aztecs. In fact, it predates by many centuries.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, this surprised me. I don't know why. The Aztecs were the ones that discovered the city. I always think of us discovering Aztec things, but they discovered this city.
And I think even as we were growing up, as we learned about the pyramids outside of Mexico City, it was always taught to us that these were Aztec pyramids. And so, I grew up thinking, oh, those are Aztec pyramids. And it's really cool to learn that these were not Aztec. This was not an Aztecan society. This was the city where the Teotihuacanos lived, and the Aztecs they discovered it. And then they used parts of it, or they had their myths and theories about it.
So it is still being excavated. They keep finding new things. And in fact, people were digging while we were there. And also it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Yeah, it is amazing.
It's very amazing.
I went with my family to the location in the late 80s, early 90s. Back then, that's one of my great early memories was being able to climb the pyramids. You cannot climb the Pyramid of the Sun or the Pyramid of the Moon anymore, so they're blocked off. But the neat thing is we did get really kind of up close with the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Okay, so the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. This was something that I don't remember being something part of what we saw when I went when I was younger. But that was really cool. So the temple is Temple of Quetzalcoatl, who is the feathered serpent.
I'm impressed you said that.
Quetzalcoatl.
It's also known as the feathered serpent. So you'll probably hear me referring to it as the feathered serpent.
She'll always say the feathered serpent. I'll say Quetzalcoatl.
The temple, again, it probably, they try to lock down what the meaning was, but they just don't know. But they think that maybe it symbolized death and resurrection. So one of the very, very interesting things about this temple is when they built it. Now, as different gods came into play,
leaders, different leaders came into play. Right?
They rebuilt temples sometimes, and they would build them on top of one another.
Yeah, and usually, so they were different, almost like societies. Like you would have the Society of the Feathered Serpent, or you'd have a society who worshipped a different deity. And depending on who was in control was how the temple was decorated.
Yes. So because of that, this temple, a century after it was built, on the west side of the temple, they put in I'll probably say this wrong, adosada platform.
The platform underneath it, over top of it.
And thankfully they did, because it completely preserved a large section of the temple. And so now you can climb. This is the one temple you could climb up that temple. It's one of the smaller ones. And when you got over to I'm going to let the motorcycle pass. When you got over to the other side,
there's a motorcycle behind us.
When you got over to the other side, you could sit while our guide was talking, and we have so much footage of this. It was incredible, the preserved.
It was beautiful
behind it,
right? And so the interesting thing about even though, so when we look at the pyramids, or even the smaller pyramids or the walkways, everything is stone colored, right? But our guide kept reminding us everything here was covered in adobe and then colored red. And so all of the structures were this vibrant red. And then even the walkways, which were all stone, were then they believe covered in adobe and painted and colored white. And so you had this beautiful red and white city. And the cool thing about the protection of the Temple of Quetzalcoatl is that you can see the reds. All the colors are there.
I imagine back in the day, though, it was just absolutely beautiful.
It had to be
colors.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
So that's one of the three temples. So that temple is on one side of the complex. And then to get down to the other side of the complex,
long walk.
You are going to take the Avenue of the Dead.
Yeah.
So the Avenue of the Dead, it's almost kind of weird to describe. It was a road that they built. It led to the Temple of the Moon. And in between we went up and down so many steps of stairs, and they were like, you would just go up like 5 or 6 and come down 5 or 6. And again, they don't absolutely know, but they're pretty sure that this was to control water.
Right. So most of Teotihuacan is very flat, but the road that goes from the Temple of Quetzalcoatl all the way up to the Pyramid of the Moon is actually a rise. And so the road, it goes up, you walk up steps and across a terrace and down steps. And it was meant to kind of ease that rise. And you can see on the sides of it, there are holes underneath the terraces where that's why they believe water was being able to be controlled, like aqueducts, being able to run. It was really cool.
So when you're walking along that road too, we stopped at a complex along the way where priests had they theorized.
They believe,
that priests had one time stayed. And that was actually, I feel like it was more recently excavated.
Yeah, probably.
And it was pretty intact from the parts that we saw, the different walls blocking off the different rooms. So
and that was the spot with the big heads, right? So there was there was an explanation here that the heads are either crocodiles or jaguars, and they believe this again goes to who's in control of what. So you could see how the crocodiles and the jaguar heads looked similar, but as one group, I believe as the jaguar group came in control, they carved away parts of the crocodile heads to make them look more like jaguars, to make it so that those heads represented their like group. So it was really interesting, and they were really well preserved, beautifully preserved.
So this is going to take you down to the Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon. And interestingly enough, those names were actually given to the pyramids by the Aztecs. Because they didn't know what the civilization before them called those pyramids, and we don't know either.
No one knows that. Well, as far as we know, no one knows.
They're still trying to figure so much out about all this.
Right.
But so we'll start with Pyramid of the Sun. This one was actually only built one time. So it was built one time, but it wasn't built very well. I remember our guide saying.
It was not. It was, they had to buttress some of it to keep it from crumbling. Yeah.
But the Pyramid of the Sun is 216 feet tall.
It is absolutely amazing.
So this is where our tour more or less ended, and our tour guide gave us some time on our own.
Yeah.
And all along the way, when you're walking in different spots, there are little vendors selling
trinkets,
souvenirs. Yeah. So you could stop. I think they were also selling maybe like Coke and stuff. I didn't see a lot selling water, but sodas. But so anyway, so we kind of went on our way. We walked by ourselves from the Temple of the Sun to the Temple of the Moon. The Temple of the Moon was actually built 7 times.
Right.
So a lot more work went into it.
Kind of the distinction of that is, a lot of times, as like we've talked about, as rulers change, as regimes changes, they would build on top of previous structures to make them bigger and better, which was what makes the Pyramid of the Sun so interesting, having been only built one time and no one ever built on top of it. But the Pyramid of the Moon is absolutely majestic as well. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So
so we had time to walk around there and to walk around the complex around the Temple of the Moon too. The Temple of the Moon is the tallest. It is it's the second tallest.
Second tallest.
Temple of the Sun
is the tallest.
And it is 140 feet tall, which is still pretty tall.
Yeah, no, they're huge. They are very big. And just kind of the whole complex in itself, all the way from the Temple of Quetzalcoatl, all the way through the Avenue of the Dead, to the Pyramid of the Sun, to the Pyramid of the Moon. It's this, I don't know, not overwhelming, but just absolutely kind of humbling experience.
It's very amazing. And just, I don't know, taking it all in and knowing how long ago this was all done is just, it's pretty amazing what they were able to do.
And that they're still digging it. They're still, one of the things is when we think about this complex, oftentimes we just think about the big pyramids, but I think our guide said that there are somewhere in the like 130 or 150 small pyramid structures all around this huge complex that they're still working to excavate and learn about.
Very large.
There's so much more that that the archaeologists and the historians have to learn about this place.
So we knew this was one thing for sure we wanted to do when we went to Mexico City.
For sure.
And I would highly recommend, if you're going to be in Mexico City, take this as an excursion. It was not that expensive and so well worth the trip.
Absolutely. And as I would consider it to be kind of a half-day trip, really. We were able to get back to Mexico City and have plenty of time to be able to kind of rest and then go out for dinner. So if you have had a great experience at Teotihuacan, or if you have interesting stories or questions about it, leave a comment. Let us know. We will answer the best as we can. It might be, we don't know. But otherwise, be sure to like and subscribe.
And thank you for joining us.
We'll see you in the next video.